84 hours, we will be welcoming in 2026. 84 hours and a new year will be upon us. And so this morning I decided I would hit all of the old cliches. We're going to have a little look back and then a very intentional look forward. It's a good time to do this. So we're going to begin by looking backwards. There we are. We didn't have snow this year. That's from a lot way backwards. But some statistics for you, if you will. Moriah Baptist Church has held around 78 hours of church services on a Sunday morning this past year. 78 hours. We've wrapped up 72 hours of prayer meetings, including our prayer spaces that ran throughout the year. With our pattern of Sunday afternoon communion services, we've had 12 hours. In the summer, we welcomed our American friends and 50-odd young children into the building for 20 hours of holiday club. If you volunteered, that felt like 120, but it was just 20. If you've joined us in reading through the entirety of the New Testament, on average that would have taken you 20 hours to do. And then, of course, we can't forget, as Mark and I have the habit of doing, Ladies' Fellowship met on Tuesday mornings, and they've put together 18 hours of fellowship for us. I mean, go us, right? But that's a lot of hours. Like, I'm sure in other churches they would have clapped themselves for that, but you guys are far too humble for that. But that's impressive. That's a Sunday morning service. We are racking up 78 hours of service. That's good. It's a lot of time for us to be in the building. For people who dedicate themselves to following Jesus, committing ourselves to following the way that he has taught us and to be part of our church, you'd feel like 78 hours is a good number for a Sunday morning. You can add to that your own personal devotion time, but I like these numbers. 78 hours, and then if we want to, we could add the communion time and the prayer time to it. We get to 162 hours of time spent together in this building, through prayer, through communion, and through these services. I was super chuffed when I did the maths, I'm not going to lie. Partly because I did the maths, which is a great thing for me to achieve, and I used a calculator. But it feels like a good number. I was pretty impressed. I was like, you know what, I might start doing this for some other churches who've got websites and see if we match up. How did we do it? On a competitive scale, are we good? All of it was going really well until I picked up my phone. I decided to look at my phone and see what 2025 looked like for me on average. Friends, on average, I spend 44 hours a week on my phone. 44 hours a week. On average, I pick my phone up 900 times a week, which is terrifying. Mark and I did a wonderful thing when we got to this point in our office where we were chatting about this, and we managed to find all the times we could justify it. I was checking the cricket score. I was looking at my Bible. There's a load of things, but that's an incredibly big figure. And I've realised that confession's good for the soul. I can safely say to you, I do not pick my Bible up 900 times a week. In fact, the idea of picking anything up 900 times a week seems baffling. And yet that's what I achieve with my phone. Over a year, on average, I will spend 2,288 hours looking at a small digital screen. I'd have picked my phone up 46,800 times over the course of the year. The realization I had as I put this morning's service together was this: in comparison, my spirituality, the thing that I'm saying I'm committing my entire life to, comes a very distant second to a piece of technology. Now, that piece of technology opens up the wonders of the world, and there's all sorts of things, and this isn't just a naysay on phones. But it did suddenly make me realize where I was truly at. But it's not just phones. For those of you sat there smugly, thinking, I don't even know where my phone is. I never charge my phone. For some of us, it's poring over our work, giving a disproportionate amount of time to the workplace, haggling the markets, playing on Vinted, spending hours perfecting our image and shopping. The truth is, the problem isn't our phone. The phone for me is just a symbol of this pull that the world has on us. This reality that we are living in a battle which is striving to capture our attention. And it comes as no big surprise, because when we look at today's passage from Revelation, we realise that this is a problem and a battle that has raged from the beginning. So I'm going to invite Sharon to come, and she's going to read for us this morning from Revelation. Thank you, Sharon.
Then I saw a second beast come out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth, in full view of the people. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honour of the beast who had been wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, so that it could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. That number is 666.
Thank you, Sharon. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. Yay to Bible reading plans that leave you in Revelation right at this time of the year. But it's good. It's good, and this morning I'm really excited for where this message goes. But the only way we can get to where we're going is to fully understand where we are. And as much as I talked about my phone, this reality is that we find ourselves in this passage looking at a reality of life. So a quick whistle-stop tour of where we are right now. At the start of Revelation 13, we are introduced to a beast, understood for all intents and purposes to be Satan, the Antichrist. A portrait that was very easy for the people to grasp. The reason that it was easy to grasp, and something that I've really come to realize as I've spent time in Revelation, is it leans a huge amount on the Old Testament. So much of what we read in Revelation 13 is taken from Daniel's visions in chapters 7 to 12. So lots of this, for people hearing it, wasn't as confusing as we maybe find it, because it's leaning on so much of what Daniel had created. So we have this first image, this beast, this animal vision that's given to us. But this morning I want to look at this second beast that we just heard about. Because the second beast, I think, is the one that we are so susceptible to falling into the trap of. The second beast is of the earth, known as a false prophet. But this is where its strength lies, in an economic propaganda. Economic propaganda. It's making power appear divine. It creates a drive for more. It makes us believe in strength. It makes us believe that wealth is the way to go. It's drawing from all of these things that we see in the first beast and making that worldly desire appealing. The second beast's role, for all intents and purposes, is to make those earthly desires seem glamorous, to seem like the things that we should be striving for and striving after. The truth is this beast wants your allegiance. And John gives this incredible image of the mark of the beast, 666, on the forehead or on the hand. Again, I've grown up in church, many of you have heard that, and this was always one of those weird things, and I've been involved in numerous conversations where people have tried to decipher this and understand it. But even this isn't all that abstract when we set it into its context. So stick with me as we work through this. Because John is actually making a reference to making a Hebrew Old Testament reference. John is referencing a Shema. And this becomes the anti-Shema. The Shema is a prayer of allegiance to God. I'm going to read it for you. It's in Deuteronomy 6. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as a symbol on your hand and bind them on your foreheads. This prayer was commonly written by people on their hands and on their foreheads. It was a sign of my allegiance is to God. So the mark of the beast is less abstract, because what it is saying is, everyone, you're going to pick a side. There is only two sides in this battle, and there is a mark which will determine which side you are on. So whilst we maybe find this idea of 666 on the forehead and the hand a bit abstract, for the original readers, they would have understood that this is a clear moment where there is no sitting on the fence. You will bear a mark, but will it be a mark of God or of the Antichrist? Everyone will pick a side. There will be an allegiance formed by each person. But it doesn't just stop there. This 666 symbol is superb the more time you spend on it. Because again, John is lifting from this understanding of the Hebrew letters, also equal numbers. You've guessed it, I'm sure by now, the word beast, when done numerically, equals 666. Really not as abstract as some people have tried to make it. But it gets even more interesting, and for us this morning, this is the crucial part for me. If you get the number 666 by also writing Nero Caesar. So we now have it personified, that this symbol is not simply just the number of the beast, but it's personified. And John, it's really clear that we understand this is not simply saying that Nero Caesar is Satan. What he's doing is leaning on, again, this understanding that Daniel brings, that when empires become our gods, they become detrimental. When empires become the absolute power of any setting, then we are in trouble. Nations become the beast when they celebrate their own power, their economic strength, when they begin to demand that people follow them completely. This is a warning that isn't simply set in the past, but can rear its ugly head any time that a global power begins to assume itself to be God. You see, the more time I spent in this passage, the more I've realized that the second beast is beginning to sculpt an image of what real life looks like, even for us now. This reality that there are pulls on our lives, on our times, and on our desires that are worldly. So suddenly this whole weird vision becomes a real reality, a battle that each of us need to face. Because the truth is this, every day we face this choice. To follow God or follow the world. To do what I know is good and to do what I know is bad. To make an allegiance with the beast or with God. As I said when I talked about my phone, every day I have a choice to embrace God, to draw near to Him, to let Him be my source, to let Him be my absolute. Every day we have the freedom. Every one of us has the freedom to do that. We are incredibly fortunate to have that freedom. But likewise, I have the freedom to wake up in the morning and open my phone and find out what's happened on the other side of the world, simply to find out what is on trend. What are all the cool people wearing? What music do I need to listen to? Where do I need to go to be cool, to be influential? All of a sudden, I have a choice. Am I going to be allured by the world, or am I going to dedicate myself to God? Every single day we have a choice. Where am I going to place myself? Who am I going to place my trust in? It's funny, as I grew up, this image of the beast is incredibly scary, and I decided this morning not to use any of the pictures that you can find on the internet when you Google it, because they're a bit daunting. But I came to a realization, far scarier than those images is the reality of the subtle way that this interferes with my own life. The subtle way in which I am being drawn into an allegiance with the devil. That's the truth of it. When I am replacing God as my source and my center with things of Him. It's an incredibly powerful thing for us to grasp, this reality that this isn't just a book that we can ignore because it's at the end of the Bible and it's a little bit weird. It speaks directly into our daily lives now. The reality is this, and the second beast pictures it for us. And every day we are guilty of falling into a simple plan, a plan of deception, of distraction, the subtle art of mindless scrolling, pursuing whatever it might be that we do without realizing we are just falling into the trap. The scene has been set for us. John has built this incredible picture, leaning heavily, as we've talked about, on that imagery that Daniel gives us. And there is a truth for us, as much as maybe we don't like to admit it, that every single day we face this reality, we face these challenges. We are in a battle. We will be called to sign up for a side. As I said, I'm incredibly guilty of using my phone a lot, but for some of us it's that draw to be more financially stable. If I could just be more financially stable, I could do more for God. Probably the wrong order. If I could just be a little bit more popular, there'd be more people I could talk to about Jesus. The wrong order. If I could have a better job, have a prettier looking house. The truth is this, we are being drawn daily into a more earthly desire and a less godly way of living. That's the reality. That is a truth that I can see in my own life. Then comes this incredible moment, and as I said, I wanted to look back and I want to look forward. But it comes this incredible moment because we aren't simply left with this reality of a battle and nowhere to go. Just because Revelation comes at the end doesn't mean it's the last thing that we can go back to. So I want us to go back into a moment that we see a direct challenge to this structure. And it's brought to us by the sons of Korah, who, if you've read your Psalms, you will notice are credited with some of our Psalms. I was fascinated when I decided to look at who are the sons of Korah. I just assumed they were singers. I was wrong. The sons of Korah were King David's prayer warriors. They were his gathered intercessors. They were the people who were committed to praying. Whatever David was going through, he would have had this band of prayer warriors praying. What an incredible title to have, the sons of Korah, to be the prayer warriors, the gathered people in the tabernacle praying. And we see within one of their prayers, within one of these psalms, the direct challenge to this battle that we face. And my prayer for us as we look to 2026 will be that we will take this psalm, this battle cry upon ourselves as almost a New Year's resolution. So if you have a Bible with you, be that on your phone, be it the Bible in the pew, your own Bible, I really encourage you, would you turn with me to Psalm 46? And this is that turning point. As I said, I wanted to paint that picture, that reality of where we are, in a constant battle between that pull of the earth and yet that desire to be godly. And sometimes it can seem like a battle that is too overwhelming, too hard. The world's pull on us is huge, and yet we have this incredible psalm. And I believe this psalm speaks directly into the challenge that we face. So Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within us, she will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall, he lifts his voice and the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us, the God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see the works of the Lord. The desolation he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shield with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I'll be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. An incredible psalm. An incredibly powerful psalm. But within it, I believe, is the battle cry that allows us to stand firm in and amongst the world. to be still. The absolute counteraction to all that the world demands of you and the pace of life that we live in is captured in these two words. The biggest revolt you can have against the schemes of the enemy is to be still. To stop. Seems incredibly simple when you say it, doesn't it? For many of you, you've been sat there now for about 20 minutes, fairly still. Some of you fidget a bit, but generally. Being still seems like the most natural and easiest thing for us to talk about, but the reality is this: it is not as easy as we would like to think it is. I'm comfortable with that because it's a battle cry. It's a battle cry that allows us to stand firm against all of the realities that we face and that we saw in Revelation 13. You see, life, just as it is for us, has made it almost impossible to be still. Almost impossible for us to be still. Life moves at a hectic pace. I would imagine there is more than one person here who deliberated this morning whether you had time to come to church with everything else you need to get done. Life moves at a pace. Quick show of hands, anyone know what happened significantly in 1370? I'm not expecting any of you to necessarily remember as children. 1370 was the time that the first public clock was erected in Germany. The first public clock was placed in Germany, and no longer did the days run by day and night. We could kiss goodbye to lions now that we had alarms. Suddenly those long days in the summer and the short days in the winter were gone. Our days were no longer dictated to us by nature, but by the continual ticking of the clock. And suddenly society was up against it. 1879. Slightly easier. Anyone know what happened in 1879? Gosh, I'm glad this isn't a quiz. The light bulb. 1879, the light bulb appeared, and the global community kissed goodbye to sleep. Pre the light bulb, the average sleep period for a person at night, 10 hours. Since the light bulb, less than 7. Why? Because we are superhuman and don't need sleep? No. Because with a light bulb and with a clock, we can stay up working late. And we can get up early to make sure we get some extra jobs done before the day begins. I don't know how many of you do that, where you're like, if I got up at 9, this is when my day begins. If I get up at 7, I can get some jobs done before I do my job. It's funny, when you read about this, the assumption was, as people back then forecast what life would look like for us, they said, you know what, they will have so much leisure time because they won't need to do all these other jobs, because there'll be washing machines that don't need to hand wash, and there'll be tumble dryers that don't need to hang things on the line, and they'll have dishwashers and all of these other things. And they were like, you know what, they are going to have an incredibly large amount of leisure time. And somebody went, you know what, or they could work more. And suddenly the second beast rears its ugly head. And the pull of the world and the desires of more suddenly overwhelmed everything. And then in 2007, the iPhone landed. And as we began our service, we understood something of the devastating impact that had on our lives. Yes, technology has been wonderful. This is not a naysay. Please do not burn all of your technology. But it's interesting to see the way that it has impacted our lives and the pull it has given us. The truth is this: everything we read in Revelation 13 is ticking along just fine. It may not look like a beast that storms around the earth, but the subtlety of the art of distraction is doing well. Just checking that last notification on your phone before bed. Firing off one last email from your laptop. Cramming for a late night exam session. Society changed as we have strengthened, and it's not always been good. Everyone has an allegiance to something. The question we are asked this morning is, what is yours too? Because the truth is this: the battle cry is going up, and my prayer, as I said, is that your New Year's resolution, as is mine, will be the discipline of being still. The simple discipline of being still. As I said, being still is not as simple as maybe we believe it to be. Those of you with a smartwatch will know how many steps you've taken. We monitor movement as a goal. It is a good thing. Please do not all just sit still for the rest of the year. But it's crucial to understand how hard it's become to be still. The philosopher Dallas Willard would argue that it is hard because the greatest spiritual enemy in our lives is hurry. The single greatest spiritual enemy you will face, according to Dallas Willard, is hurry. Movement, doing, ultimately not being still is the danger we face. And why is it such a great enemy? Because the more we hurry, the more we depend on our own efforts, the more that we need the world's goods to do all that we need to do, the truth is this, the less we are depending on God. Hurry doesn't have time to be still and know that I am God moments. How many of us know, if we were to look back on the year when we've gone, I haven't got time to read my Bible today. I haven't got time to stop and pray. It's not just a you thing. I can confess for Mark and I, we meet as a leadership team on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning to pray. And there are some Tuesday mornings where the last thing I want to do is stop and pray because I've got work to do. I need to write a preach. Why would I stop and pray? Suddenly hurry takes over and the doing becomes more important than the being present with God. And the allegiance that we show will slowly shift from God to the world. Richard Foster puts it like this: in contemporary society, our adversary majors in three things: noise, hurry, and crowds. It's the strength of the enemy. Noise, hurry, and crowds. If he can keep us engaged in muchness and manyness, he will be content. If we can be caught up in muchness and manyness, then he will be content. So suddenly this Sons of Korah statement, be still, takes on a whole new edge. This battle cry isn't simply for some downtime, some peace and quiet. It is a direct rebellion against the pull of the world. That's that slide there. Friends, we've done a lot in 2025. It's been an amazing year. We've seen some incredible, incredible things. But I pray as we move into the new year, we would resolve as a church to be still more often. To be still more often. These prayerful intercessors, David's prayer warriors, knew that the battle would be won in the stillness of prayer. That would be the first point of reference. That would be the source of all that would come after it, would be to stop and pray. To depend wholly on God. Sounds easy. The problem is this, and again I can only speak for myself, but I'm guessing I'm not the only person in the room. The idea of stopping seems silly. Because if I stop, the world will fall apart. If I don't do it, who will? We buy into this belief. I don't know how many of you are guilty of this as I am, but I'm thinking, you know what, it's great they've offered to do it, but if they do it, it won't be as good as if I do it, so I need to keep going. And don't even get me started on God. God is good, but he's a busy man. So I can't always trust God to do it. Sometimes I'm going to need to take it into my own hands, and I'm going to deal with it, God, because by the time you get to it, it will probably be too late. And all of a sudden, we realize just how hard it is to stop and trust God, to be still. Because we have been inundated with information that tells us that we have to do it. We have to be the best. We will be let down. If I don't, who will? If I don't, how will they know? All of a sudden we become highly dependent on ourselves and on the way of the world. But we are taught through this incredible prayer there is another way, to be still and to know that he is God. King David and this group of prayers knew the position of stillness, this prayerful posture of stillness, which becomes even more fascinating when you consider that David faced very real battles. There were genuine bows and arrows aimed at him. looking to take his life, and yet he knew the importance of being still and of trusting God. In doing so, he changed his perspective from the eye line that he had of all that he faced to this understanding of what God saw and all that God could do. And he understood that no battle would be won by his own hurry and his own efforts, but it needed God to be present. As we come into close, I just wanted to look at this idea of being still. The Latin term, this morning's been good, right? Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. The Latin term for be still is vacate, where we get the term vacation from. Fascinating, isn't it? 70 odd hours of church service on a Sunday morning. For many of you, you can't get in the building unless one of us with the key is here. And yet we can pray whenever we want, wherever we want. In any situation we find ourselves in, we can pray. We can take time to be on a prayer vacation any time we want to. Maybe stop looking at them as prayer meetings. Mark and I are going to start advertising in 2026. Prayer vacations, an hour in the fellowship room. We'll put the heating on. Wear a sunblock. But we can take these opportunities to pray, to put everything else down whenever we want to, and communicate with the King of Kings, the creator of all things. What an incredible privilege for us to have, to stop and be completely present in that moment with God. By being still, by simply being still and acknowledging God is God, he moves from the peripheral of our lives into the very center. That's what we're doing through the art of being still, is moving God from the peripheral to the center. And this is why, as I close, I want to understand why. Because Psalm 46 is bigger than those two words. And despite many posters telling you otherwise, it does not finish with be still and know that I am God. We do need to be still. And we need to rest in God's presence, to let him be the center, to be still and know that I am God is an incredible discipline. But what is the result of our being still? What happens when we stop running the entire world? I will be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. By me being still and knowing that he is God, he will be exalted. Suddenly puts into perspective all of my best efforts. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Exalted in the earth and in the nations, simply put, means this: God's presence will become visible. God's presence will become the reality. By me being still and knowing that he is God, his presence will be known among the nations and his presence will be visible in the earth. As a result of me stilling myself and acknowledging he is who he is. His kingdom will come, and the reality will be that love will overcome hatred, kindness will replace competition, peace will rule over fear, and joy will replace worry. God will do all of that if we would just be still. Let him be our source and let him be the center. Let him be where we base ourselves. Be still and know that he is God. Be still and remember he is God. In doing so, be still and remember I am not God. Be still and let my allegiance be to the God of creation and not that of the earth. By being still, by letting God be God, we will see changes in our lives. I promise you of that. If you find the discipline of being still in God's presence, it will impact and change your life. And as we change, we fully believe we will see the world around us change. Changing as God is exalted as a result of our stillness, of our focus on him, of our prayer lives. All of it being rooted in being present and still with our God. So as we plan for an amazing 2026 where we pray we would see salvation, that we'd see baptisms, we'll have holiday clubs, we've got prayer spaces, there'll be workshops, there'll be ladies' fellowship. I pray in amongst all that we do as a church, we would be able to look back at the end of the year and say, we were still. more than we were hurried. We focused on God more than we focused on our own best efforts. That we would be a church that knows He